Hello, everyone, and welcome to 17 Minutes of Science. I am Paul Niederhood, the Regional Director of Business Development at NVivo Biosystems, and it's good to be here. Our topic today is scientific development on demand. And today, our guest is Christine Kressirer, the Senior Director at the Azure Group. As you know, I have a timer, and we just started it to make sure we stay on to 17 minutes today. So Christine, you've had a range of experiences in your career so far, from academia to regulatory, and now you're in operations. So how did you end up where you are today?
Hi, Paul. Thanks. First, thank you to you and your team who've been working in the background and those at NVivo Biosystems for organizing this event and for the invitation to be here. This is just super exciting. As to my background, as to how I ended up here today, I've always loved science and I've always loved working in teams. And initially when I was younger, I thought I wanted to be a college professor. So I started down that standard path. Like most, I did undergraduate degrees in science. In my case, it was biochemistry and microbiology. And I worked in a lab for a few years. I saved up some money and then I went to grad school in Munich, Germany, where I got my PhD in cancer biology. It was in pharmaceutical biology. From there, I went and then I did a postdoc and I was studying the bacteria that cause tooth decay in children. And along the way, it morphed from being a college professor to mentoring and overseeing teams and moving into that operations piece. So I oversaw scientific cores and eventually I moved into these multi-tenant spaces. They're known as incubators or accelerators. And I support the science that's done in there. So it's been a fun path and I really love where I'm at right now.
I think that's fantastic. Incubators and Accelerator Labs space has been something close to my heart. And do you remember how you first found out about the smaller accelerator spaces?
I was intimately involved with one. So where I was working, they said, we want to launch one of our own. And so we looked around and it was a very new concept. So I was in the initial planning phases and I eventually took over pieces of it. And then I moved out and I oversaw one entirely. And that is a really fun space to be in. These companies are young and they're hungry and they're fast and they're smart and they just talk science all the time. So if you haven't been exposed to them, I would highly suggest look them up. They're very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think they're a major disruptor. And a larger organization, Azure, has many different support services. And so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about Azure and the Cleanrooms on Demand model and services that you work for now.
Certainly. So even from the first introduction, this concept has really been interesting to me. This is the next phase after the accelerator. So those accelerators, if you think of a product life cycle, so a test that you might take in a doctor's office, or maybe the drug, a vaccine, or something along those lines, they started somewhere. And it was a concept that they wanted to grow and produce. So they tend to do the research to show that it probably will work, and they need to get into a clinical trial. This is where Azzur Cleanrooms on Demand comes in. We provide, how does our president say it? He says, you focus on the science and we focus on the compliance. And what he means is we provide this clean room and all of the support services around it. So our clients apply to work out of our space. And if we can support them, we customize these clean rooms. They're modular, they're connectable, and we can really make them fit the process that they need. We provide all the surrounding services so they can really focus on what they're doing to get a safe and effective product to get into those early phase trials. And as far as the parent company, Azzur, they have so many support and wraparound services that really carry our product along. They have consulting to help design the product and get it to where it needs to be in the different phases. There's IT, there's training, there's actual laboratory testing and environmental monitoring. Well, they'll do the work and provide the results. There's calibration, there's maintenance. So it's the whole 9 yards. And so it's really that discovery to delivery platform all under one umbrella.
I think that's amazing and really good resources for companies. You also have many locations all over the US and it seemed to be expanding. There's one here in Waltham, Massachusetts, very close to where I live. I think you're located in the Burlington, Massachusetts area. What other locations do you have available?
Oh, as you said, we're across the country and we're in those biotech hotbeds. And right now we have a multitude of services spread out and we're starting to consolidate, whereas in each of these locations, you'll see all of them. So you'll see us in North Carolina, you'll see building out in Texas, we're building in California, and we have offices in California. So we're up and down each of those major biotech hotbeds.
Oh, that's awesome. What type of companies, like nutraceutical, biotech companies, or even the stealth startups, do you normally support, and how do you work with them to scale?
I'm going to say yes to the first part. We're sort of client agnostic. We're more focused on the process and what's coming out. So if they have a process that we can support, it tends to be single-use technologies. It tends to be a clearly developed manufacturing line, which we either can help them develop if they're not quite at that phase, or something that can be processed out into a clean end product. So we have stealth, we have that mid phase, we have those early phase, and we have global pharmaceutical companies who maybe have a smaller version where they just need the space to manufacture this early phase product. So we talk to everyone and we see how we can fit. And the second part of your question is how do we support them?
Yeah, and how do you scale with the companies as they grow in your space?
We scale with them in different ways. Given that we're modular and we have multiple clean rooms under one roof, we can have many different clients at one time who are working on very different processes, and their needs change and they flex over time. So initially they might come in with one product, and if it turns out that they're not able to push that one further along the pipeline, they can pivot and they can modify. Or if it turns out it works really well, they can expand within our facilities, or they can work with us to go and we can actually help them build their own facility when they reach that phase.
Oh, that sounds excellent. That really speaks to a lot of the different support services that you have available for them, and truly unique to the industry. Azzur's hybrid model allows partners to execute manufacturing activities without the need for facility ownership or reliance on contract manufacturing organizations, the CMOs that you frequently hear about. And so with the current pandemic and the organizations shifting to study the disease, the idea of clean rooms on demand sounds ideal for people who have the experience, but maybe not the tools to safely research that. Do you have partners currently working on coronavirus related work?
Yes, we do. We get a lot of interest, not only from those that are in our space, but those that are looking for space. And they're looking for places to develop vaccines, to develop tests, or develop new technologies that we haven't even seen yet. So that is definitely a whole new cohort of scientists that are reaching out and learning how we can best support their activities.
Oh, wow. So it definitely sounds like the pandemic has impacted the market demand for the clean rooms on demand. Do you think that that trend will continue?
Yes, not only for pandemic-related research. Right now, we're in the heyday of science, and I'm fortunate enough to be in Boston, which is just a mecca of science and a mecca of science universities that are really putting forth really good ideas. And there's a lot of venture capital funneling in to really support these and to grow them. So we expect that this area in the marketplace will explode while people are working on new ideas and developing new modalities to maybe deliver drugs faster and safer and maybe less painful, or between you and I, there's a lot of interesting research going on, and we do see that this is a market need and will be expanding.
That's excellent. I know like our cold supply chain and moving things in temperature controlled environments, and also just supply chain stability is really critical to manufacturing, along with other consumables and PPE, which we've seen some erratic spikes in demand recently. And so what supply chain strategies have you adjusted to ensure business continuity at Azzur for you and the customers?
You've hit a pain point that a lot of science are experiencing right now, and we're all aware of the need to route the PPE and the resources where they need to be, and we're just communicating. So we reach out to our vendors and we talk to them and we say, over the next 6 months, this is what we're looking like we may need. We're resourcing from local vendors who've maybe pivoted in what they do, and they're providing an alternative source. We're working with our clients to understand their needs. So we talk to them about their experiments and their equipment. We're talking and connecting them with the vendors so we can understand what might be ahead of us, and if there's something we can change now to work on to change a system that would be acceptable and provide an alternative, this is something that we can work on together. You're right, though. It's not just those freezers, it's gloves, it's tips, it's gowning material, it's masks, and it's a common conversation that many of us are having.
Wow. We actually have a really good customer question that came in that's kind of along these lines. And they were asking, do you foresee that clean rooms and biotechs that they have on site, could those be going away and moving towards facilities such as clean room on demands?
I would guess so. And the reason I would guess that is it's expensive to build a clean room. It's expensive to maintain a clean room. It's also expensive to function around it. You need a lot of quality measures, and you need a lot of material handling, and there's a lot of paperwork, and there's a lot of very regulated systems that need to be kept up to date, and they need to be validated. And it's this continual, not only workflow that takes hours and hours of just human input, but there's a lot of infrastructure that goes to that. So these consolidated spaces that handle the overhead and the ownership of the facility free up resources, it frees up time, it frees up money. If multiple people are paying into a site, that lowers the cost for everyone. So that money can be better diverted to research and to furthering these programs. These clean room spaces fulfill a need in that they have the expertise and they help that compliance piece that maybe these researchers don't have. So rather than them taking the years to build it and train their staff and maybe not need it, if the product that they're using fails, what are they going to do with the facility? These small clean rooms allow them to fail faster and to pivot. So in my mind, it won't be a one size fits all, but it really will be one that I would expect to see a lot of utilization rates in the future.
That's fantastic. And staying up to date with current GMP standards and all the regulatory standards can be really tricky. And navigating that regulatory space, with it being really challenging, is something that Azzur helps quite a bit with. So what tools and resources do you provide to help companies navigating that space?
As we touched on before, it's a partnership between us at Clean Rooms On Demand and our sister companies under this Azure umbrella. So if I have a problem or my clients have a problem, it's really as easy as me picking up a phone and connecting with someone that we already have in our network and saying, this is a new one. We haven't faced this before. Give me your expertise and connect me. They can say, oh, I've done this, and they can provide a clear guideline, or they can bring in the resources that we need to cover those hurdles. And we span the gamut. So from really that discovery point all the way up to where this product is in a person, we have the expertise, and we understand that data and IT are so very important. We understand that the gowning and the training is incredibly essential. We have a facility right now that's down in our North Carolina site where you can send your staff, you can send your equipment, and we have a clean room there for you. You can do a mock-up, you can do all of your training, and you don't have to stop your production flow. So you can get yourself to the point of where you're ready to go. You transfer that back to the facility you're really going to work out of, and you're set. You can do this also in the clean room on demand spaces. You can start your clean room a little early and you can get it all set up. There's a lot of resources, and that's what our company has the expertise in, and that's our market space.
Yeah, and just preparing to speak with you, I was looking at the training center that was recently launched, and it was really impressive being able to customize that to different unique scenarios and then training people on that versus having just a preset training. So
Right.
I thought that was amazing.
Actually, the labs piece too. I don't know if you had to look into that. We have labs that are popping up all over, and they'll do customized tests for in-process testing. So if you're doing a microbiome test and you need environmental monitoring or you need to test things, they have staff that can come on site and they'll do the testing for it. They'll go in their labs. They'll give you a regulated and validated result that you can then take furthering in your process, and you don't have to hire and train for that. It's a set third party that's ready to go. It's wonderful, and I'm so happy to be part of this team, which I'm sure you can feel.
That is amazing. We had one other good question just come in, and how long does it typically take for a company to move into those spaces and get up and running with manufacturing?
We are Clean Rooms on Demand, and the name evolved because we had great intention to have clean rooms at all times. The problem is we can't build them fast enough. So we have a facility up and running in Waltham that has 6 clean rooms, and they're going to 8. They're already booked, and they're booked for different periods of time. We're working with the town of Burlington now to put in a 20 clean room facility there, and we have a percentage of that booked already. So I would like to say that we always have them on demand. And you'll see us in California. Vista, California is about to open their site with 9 clean rooms here on April 1st. So we have some clients who are considering moving from the Boston area to go out to California to get that right away and to get up and running. With that said, we're building to meet the demand. When you are accepted, there's a tech transfer where it's a facility fit out. That would take 6 weeks at the fastest timeline, and maybe 2 months if it's a larger piece. From there, you have to do a little bit of validation work within the facility, but then you're off. You're running a batch. So we're talking a matter of months rather than a CMO timeline, which might be 18 months before you can get to your first batch. And if something changes to pivot, you've lost your IP control. So you have to go through all these changes. In a space like ours, you have IP control and you have batch control. We provide the space and we work with you, but you're really in control of your own destiny. So we're helping accelerate you as fast as we can. So you're cutting it from years to months.
Wow. I mean, not only is that cost savings, but just getting patients and treatments and cures into patients' hands sooner is just life-changing. And with our last minute, I always love this question, but if you could look into a crystal ball, what would you see in the upcoming years?
There's so much potential. Science has really moved towards this collaborative and community. I see cell and gene therapy really taking off. You see it now, and here it goes. You see vaccine development is really marching forward. I personally believe there's going to be a lot with microbiology. It takes time for these to get up, but once they're up and running, I think we're going to see that there's a big change. And I know there's a lot of these companies out there who have the same mindset. You, for example, in vivo biosystems, like Paul, you fit right in with our mindset. Tell us about it.
Yeah, one of the things we do besides the human avatars is we look at the functional analysis of variants that have unknown significance. And it helps to understand why some people could carry the gene and some are symptomatic and some are not. And getting that personalized medicine into hands has also been just kind of a personal mission. So I definitely share that enthusiasm with you. And just being able to see and have an impact in this area, I think is tremendous. And that is our timer for today, but that was a great way to end. And thank you so much, Christine, for taking the time to talk with us today. And we wish you well and be well and safe at home. And we'll see everybody next week on 17 Minutes of Science. So take care.